Troy Dooley, the Beachside CEO. I hope you guys are having a phenomenal Tuesday morning. You know, it's been beautiful. I'm up here at the park, just finished getting in 10,000 steps this morning, and just taking some time to reflect, do some study, listen to some podcasts. Phenomenal. Matter of fact, great podcast. Good friend of mine, Tyler Reagan, Life-Giving Leadership. You can check this out wherever you listen to podcasts. Tyler's got a phenomenal show, really phenomenal website. You can go to lifegivingleaders.com, listen to it. But I mean, it's just powerful. He had Joe Saxton on today, just a powerful female leader on it. So you got to check that out. It's just a great show. Hey, I want to dig into something though. I've been doing some studies and really digging into all the different stats that we're seeing, and I found a death rate stat that just dwarfed what we're seeing in the mortality rate of COVID-19. And as I studied this, focused in it, and realized the women that are in crisis, probably all over the world, but here in America specifically, this has become, for lack of a better word, we'll just say the pandemic. This could be the great pandemic of 2020, and it's something that very few people have looked at, very few people have even thought about, to be quite honest. And a substat to this that I found most depressing actually is that the incarceration rate of females in America is 35% higher than males. Has been growing more than males over the last 35 years. The last 35 years, more women have been incarcerated than men. And you've got to be asking why. Why is this? What has shifted? And that's what really led me down this path of some of this other stat I'm going to talk about. Because if we have a breakdown in culture where more women are being incarcerated than men, I think that's something we need to be looking at. That's not been the norm in this country since we started. So that was a substat that I looked at. More women incarcerated over the last 35 years than men. But the most current stat that just came out showed the death rate of female employment higher than men. Over 55% of the unemployment stats right now are females. And that blew my mind. And here's why. We started taking stats in 1948. So from 1948 to the year 2020, women have never had higher unemployment than men. When you look at the recession of 2008, it was called the man cession because 70% of the unemployed were men at the time. And now women have a higher unemployment rate than men. And that shows us two things. One, there's more women having to be in the workforce. And you may say, well, Troy, isn't that kind of bigoted or sexist? And no. When you look at all the stats in America, you see the divorce rate is over 50%. You see single moms are on the rise. You see double income, triple income households. More women are having to work. And when you look at this current man-made recession, the industries that got hit the hardest, unlike 2008. In 2008, the hardest was construction and manufacturing. Construction and manufacturing is still booming. There's construction all over America, road construction, building construction, new home construction, big repairs. I mean, it's all over. Manufacturing's still cranking out. Masks, food, equipment, everything. None of that has been affected. And for the most part, except for meat packing plants, we haven't seen a giant pandemic in those areas. But where most females end up working And I think they work here because they can do it part-time. They can still be at home with the kids. They can do whatever they want. That's a guess on this guy's part. But they work in hospitality. They work in retail. They work in the entertainment industry. So when you look at where females work, from the highest to the lowest level, understand this: strip clubs are closed, bars are closed, retail outlets are closed, massages are closed, hair care is closed, nails are closed, travel, the Disney is closed, all your resorts are closed, all your cruise ships are closed, your hotels are closed, Hollywood's closed. This is huge when you think about it. 30 million people are unemployed, and 55% of them are females. And that has never happened in the history of America. Now, the reason that I'm thinking this through a little bit is because what's going to happen on the backside of this? If the people that are already being incarcerated over the last 35 years, if the majority have been females, and we're not quite sure why, what will the additional pressure do? Will we see higher opiate addictions? Will we see higher other drug addictions? Will we see more alcoholism? Will we see a rise in depression, a rise in suicides? What exactly will come out of this crisis that's here? And as I was studying some of these stats and studying these articles, I thought, okay, if this is the downside, if this is the part that sucks, then what can we as men, what can we as women who have employment, what can we do that are counselors, what can we do that are thought leaders, how can we help? And it doesn't mean go puke all over women and say, hey man, I got a great opportunity for you, you need to join my home-based business, you need to It's not about that. Matter of fact, before you do that crap, you ought to go watch the video that I did with my good friend Doug Fireball at neverwithoutincome.com. Look, there's no sign up, there's no mailing list or nothing like that. We put this together because we felt it was that important. So before you just go puking on people, male or female, you need to go watch neverwithoutincome.com. But what you need to do in this case is you need to look around in your community at the women that you know. That could be online, that can be offline, it's up to you on that. But you need to make sure that they are emotionally solid, okay? That they are literally moving in the right direction, because a lot of times, at least as a husband and a dad, and we've got 7 females that I've either raised or I'm raising, they don't all the time tell you what they're feeling. You got to ask the right question. You got to listen then for a long time. You've got to kind of see where the emotions are. But I think this is huge. And I said this a few weeks ago, that it might be advantageous for you to set your spouse down, your significant other down. Maybe you need to set your daughters down, your mom, your aunt, your uncle, whatever, and say, hey, I just want to find out, how are you feeling through all this? Fear manifests itself in some really bizarre ways. So there could be a little bit heavier drinking, a little bit more white wine. You notice that by the time you get home from having a glass the night before, that the bottle's 3/4 of the way empty, and you didn't do it. So whatever that case is, there you need to look at that. Maybe she's sleeping more. Maybe she's got headaches more. Maybe she's more distant. Whatever the case is, if you've got a lady in your life who has been used to working, that's part of her DNA. That's part of what allows her to get away from the house, get away from the kids, be able to do something she's proud of. I know men, we think that, and to a certain degree, this is true. Women want to be pursued. Women want to be rescued. The deal is they don't want to be rescued from something that they don't need rescued from. They want you to be there when they need. They want that security. They want, and I'm being general here, but I mean, it's a known fact. Women want security. Men love the adventure. So a woman wants to know, hey, you're going to rescue me if I start to fall. But when she's already crashed because of a man-made recession, when she didn't have a choice to say F you to her boss or anything else. She just one day said, hey man, we're not bringing you in, everybody's got to stay home. I mean, that gets scary. And then you're at home too because your boss said you're out the door too. And it's really good to say, oh, we're going to be okay because the government's going to give us extra money on unemployment. Oh, we're going to be okay because the PPP is going to bail us out. You understand, with women, that still doesn't take care of the fact, hey, why can't I go roll? Why can't I go do this? I don't know how to react. Now you take the men that are home, the women are home, you start beating each other up. Next thing you know, we'll have a high divorce rate, or as we're seeing right now, domestic abuse. And obviously, if we see more women being incarcerated than men, it makes you wonder if maybe the women are the ones that I'm sick and tired of this, and boom. Or maybe it's just because they're out there doing some things they shouldn't be doing, hence the opiate addiction, hence some of these other addictions. I don't have those answers. I didn't dig yet on that. Here's what I do know. We got a female crisis in America that was man-made, okay? Now, were women involved? Sure, there's a minority of women in Congress, but for the most part, the government is still made up more of men than they are women, and this is a crisis that was man-made in the purest sense. So as noble men, as men that really do believe in noble masculinity, I believe it's time that we step up to the plate with the women in our life and try our best to say, hey, I want to help you through this. What do you need from me? Maybe she just needs her feet rubbed. Maybe she just needs you to listen and not talk. Maybe you just, for once, you should pick up your underwear and throw them in the wash basket. Whatever the case is. And if you guys don't think it's as big, if you think, oh, Troy, there you go again, sensationalizing stuff. You can go look this up on NPR, Washington Post, CNN, MBS. I mean, it's all over the place today. And it's like, whoa, this is huge. I'm not negating the fact that we've lost tens of thousands of people. I'm not negating that. But when you look at 68,000 or 37,000, the numbers are all over the place. When you look at the tens of thousands who've died because of the coronavirus, because of the flu, because of whatever, and then you look at the 30 million unemployed, where over 55% of those are females, and we see an issue here. When you look at the stats over the last 35 years, more women have been incarcerated than men. We need to figure out what we can do. And if you're a noble man, a man of noble masculinity, then you're going to be trying to do your part to do everything you can to make the women in your life not feel like they're out there on an island by themselves, not feel like they're taking on the world by themselves. You're going to have to dig deep. Women don't like to be raw with their emotions. They're just as afraid of rejection as you are. But I think it's time we all step up to the plate and do our part. So, hey, we'll probably be back on this afternoon with a little bit higher up motivation, but this was serious. I get so sick and tired of the political rhetoric that's out there, and then here's a stat nobody's talking about, and it affects you and me because we all have women in our lives. It doesn't matter if you're gay, straight, transgender, whatever you are. There's a woman in your life, brought you into this world, your sister, your mother, your aunt, somebody. You need to reach out and make sure they're doing okay. That's all I've got to say. Have a great morning, guys.